Hey everyone, um, Justin back here again. I haven't made a video in a while, and I kind of just want to make a practical video about growing up in the church and growing up with cerebral palsy and Christianity. Um, it's really interesting growing up religious and having a disability because the main, doctrinal thing about Christianity is it says, we're not supposed to be here. We live in a fallen world. And when you have a disability and you're limited, that seems much more plausible. So I kind of felt like I was like, I don't want to sound narcissistic or anything, but like growing up, like I thought like I was like sent from heaven. And there's literally, I was in the paper, and there's literally an article, and it was called Heaven Sent, and it was like my story about going to like Costa Rica and stuff like that. But that's a whole nother tangent. Um, I so I grew up Christian, and I was it's kind of weird because I it was like kind of like my parents weren't like strict, but it was kind of like 50-50. Like they would let me play violent video games. They would let me be a little bit more free than others, I would say. But I wouldn't be allowed to watch certain YouTubers, and I when if they cussed or anything like that. I think the main problem with Christianity is um, it didn't help me understand other people because I was told evolution was a lie, and we were made by God, so I didn't really understand the complexities of the natural world and human behavior, and and then I had a traumatic experience with the church about when I was 15, 16, high school, and it just, yeah, kind of changed. Then I started smoking a bunch of weed and I got into Eastern religion, but that's kind of a whole nother thing. And I think all my life I've kind of wrestled with God, I guess you could say, and my dad was really into theology and just stuff like that and interpreting the Bible. So from that, it kind of gave me more of a philosophical background, and that's why I lean more towards philosophy. Is I guess it's in my genes. It just expresses itself differently. Um, I I don't know. It also gave me the spotlight effect really bad. So it wasn't like God was watching me all the time. I just felt like I had a special purpose and the world revolved around me in a specific way. And I'm like, why can't people see how certain people see how special I am? And I didn't understand that we're all just human primates trying to live in a really in our own unique way, and everybody has their own problems. So I don't know. It just kind of made me more self-conscious than I should have been, and the whole thing with Eastern religion then is it's about the illusory nature of the self, and just how the world doesn't really revolve around you. You're just um, um, an expression of the one consciousness experiencing itself subjectively, and you just kind of have to, I don't know, be selfless. And so the transition from that, I don't want to say I'm enlightened, but when I first listened to a lot of the Eastern traditions, like it just kind of fit, and it just, I don't know, I don't know, I understood it. I don't know, it just fit like a glove, and it was kind of frustrating because like, not everybody could understand it, and you kind of just have to keep your mouth shut. And I guess that's what I like about it is when I was Christian, I was like, why can't other people think like I do? And like, why can't I just like find somebody that sees me and understands me the same way? And what spirituality is about is being selfless and just trying to be like a light for the world, and instead of being like a closed fist, you're kind of just an open space. But what I've noticed is all my life I've kind of wrestled with God and spirituality, and there's a part of me now, because I suffer from really bad disassociation from really bad weed trips, that whereas like, yeah, the spiritual stuff is true, but coming back to the relative level and realizing how on one level we're all just like animals, and I feel like I kind of subconsciously like bypassed a lot of my trauma, because one of the things I learned on mushrooms is how much I repress stuff, because like a lot of stuff came out. I won't get too much into that, but I don't know. I feel like God and Jesus will be always a part of my life, but the problem with God and Jesus is I feel like, they say we're made in the image of God, but sometimes I feel like man creates God in their image. That's not me. That's from an infamous cult leader, spiritual leader, Osho, that said that, which I know he was kind of terrible, but every once in a while he would say something interesting. But I don't know. I just find that really interesting because like, if we're so complex, if we don't know what we are, how the heck can we know what God is? That's kind of like saying like everything about a loved one that's passed away. But I don't know. I've just never been able to slow down and just be like human. I've always had the analysis paralysis, and I've always had just kind of the need to understand, because like I said, my dad was really into theology and philosophy and stuff like that, or theology and just studying the Bible, I meant. So I don't know. And then I don't know, I've just kind of learned just to take people with a grain of salt and try to get rid of the spotlight effect. And I've gotten more into comedy, which, funny thing about comedy, funny thing, is that it can be a really good source of expression, but at the same time it just shows you how absurd the world is and how to not take anything seriously. So like, I kind of want to take my stuff seriously because I go through a lot, but at the same time it's like, oh yeah, your life is just a cosmic comedy, or a cosmic giggle. And I share the same birthday with Albert Camus, so it makes it even more interesting. But yeah, I don't know, I've kind of had to deal with just kind of had to figure out stuff on my own, and just I don't know. I grew up an only child, and then around 4th or 5th grade, I became friends with somebody who was essentially like a brother to me. And when you don't have anybody else to tell you like a different perspective on life, and you kind of just have to figure things out on your own, it can be really hard when you start deconstructing a lot of this stuff. And it could almost, like, I don't know, it's kind of like a rude awakening. But what I've learned is a lot of people, I think people say like, oh, like, we should like question Christians and challenge Christians, which is important. But at the same time, a lot of people who are Christian like just need those illusions to stay sane, because we live in a world that's stranger than we can imagine, and it just gets hard to, I don't know, me learning all this Eastern stuff kind of destabilized me. And I don't know, for me life is not a straight line, I guess, because it's like I don't know, I just feel like when I'm with another person, I kind of am the other person in a sense. But yeah, it's just I don't know, I think, and I've said this in previous videos, I don't think people take being able-bodied for granted. I think people take the idea of having their own illusory sense of being separate from the world, and being their own sense of age. I think people take that for granted a lot of the time, and I don't know, it just gets, it could be freeing, but because I feel like the universe does have my back in a lot of ways. But sometimes I wonder, because like I had a very traumatic birth, so then I wonder like what happens if I have a very traumatic death in a sense. And I don't know, I kind of go back and forth between, but like the universe has my back, and then like I don't know how, and then I'm like, I don't know how this is gonna all work out. And I've had a lot of attachment and codependency issues, and I've been kind of working through those too. And just kind of, I don't know, since I deconstructed a lot of that stuff, I've been learning to see how imperfections are kind of beautiful. And I don't know if I said this in a previous video, but I said that I'm not afraid of what people can think. I'm afraid of what people can't think, including myself, because there's so much going on, and there's, other people get to, like, play on, be in culture, and I don't know, I just feel like I'm always on the outside, kind of like looking in, and like I said, I just want to be a space for like light for people, and I don't want to have to defend myself and create. I don't know, identity's been always kind of a hard thing for me, because I've never, I guess, and I've said this in previous videos, that like one thing cerebral palsy has taught me is how everything is in relationship with everything else, and how we need others to understand ourselves. And I don't know, yeah, it just gets very isolating, because like then you realize that other people aren't thinking about these things as much as you are, and you kind of have to just understand boundaries and stuff. But yeah, anyway, that's just me rambling. I just wanted to come on here and make a video because I haven't in a really long time. And anyways, if you enjoyed this, thanks for watching, and I'll try to make videos more often. It's just hard finding the motivation to, but anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll make another video very soon. Thank you.